In 1957, police arrested 51-year-old Edward Theodore Gein for the murder of Bernice Wardens. After searching his remote Wisconsin farmhouse, they uncovered a veritable horror show of crimes, including shallow graves, disembodied remains, and clothing and furniture crafted from human skin. As new, disturbing information came to light, authorities began to scrutinize the circumstances surrounding Gein's childhood, desperately trying to piece together the motivation behind such extreme and inhuman acts. But what they discovered about his formative years was perhaps just as horrifying as the crimes themselves, revealing a chilling origin story that would plague his entire existence. When you watch figures like Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lambs, Leatherface in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or Norman Bates in Psycho, you are, in essence, witnessing the story of Ed Gein. Since his unbelievably gruesome crimes first came to light, his life has inspired countless documentaries, films, television series, and even a musical, solidifying his place as one of America's most notorious serial criminals. Ed Gein was the child of Augusta and George Gein, and their family dynamic was tumultuous, to say the least. His father was an alcoholic, while his mother was a domineering religious fanatic. Augusta and George raised their sons, Edward and Henry, on a farm in rural Wisconsin. The profound isolation of this setting allowed Augusta to meticulously shield her sons from any outside influence she deemed corrupting. Growing up, both Ed and his brother Henry endured their mother's constant barrage of verbal abuse, supporting each other as they navigated the profound lack of affection from both parents. Augusta Gein seemed to harbor a deep dislike for her children, doing everything in her power to sabotage their lives. Following the deaths of both his father and brother, Gein became his mother's sole caretaker, living with her in the farmhouse after she suffered several strokes. Some have theorized that this period marked the beginning of a truly twisted relationship, one that would directly inspire Norman Bates's pathological obsession with his mother in Psycho. Their dynamic was profoundly detrimental to Ed's mental health. His stunted social development led him to emulate his mother's quirks while simultaneously harboring a deep-seated hatred and resentment towards her. After his apprehension, Gein underwent a psychological evaluation, where a lot of disturbing information surfaced. When asked about his earliest childhood memories, one of the first Gein recalled was falling down the stairs in his family's kitchen. He remembered the feeling of being pushed and how his mother was there to collect him after he crashed into the cellar. To everyone except Gein, it seemed obvious that she had pushed him. Psychologists believe that Ed then transferred this early humiliation into a later quest for power. His repressed feelings against his mother, whom he paradoxically referred to as a saint, caused him to primarily target women as victims in his later crimes. Additionally, his mother was devoted to Lutheranism to a fanatical degree. She imposed extreme beliefs onto her sons, emphasizing the sinfulness of sexual relations, which, according to her, was a constant temptation lurking everywhere. As an adult, Ed reportedly only left the family home for work and never engaged in any romantic relationships. On the other side of the coin was Ed's father, George Gein, a habitually unemployed alcoholic who would either participate in the abuse Ed and Henry were subjected to or completely disconnect from it. He had worked various jobs, including tanning and carpentry, and in 1909, he owned his own small meat and grocery shop. However, his excessive drinking forced him to sign the shop over to his wife in 1911. Augusta would constantly deride George as a worthless drunk, leading to a tumultuous household where the violent but quiet man would often respond to criticism with cold silence. George passed away in 1940, to which his wife later remarked that he had gone to hell. One can only imagine he sought to escape her influence. Early in his life, Ed and his family lived in La Crosse, Wisconsin. But by 1914, Ed's mother, desiring to escape the perceived immorality of the city, insisted the family move to a 63-hectare farm. His father had long since relinquished all decision-making to her, so Augusta sold the family grocery store to finance the massive plot of land. With the deed firmly in Augusta's hands, the Geins moved into their permanent residence, almost completely isolated from the outside world. In their new home, Augusta Gein took a harsh stance on most outside activities. Their move from the city to a remote farm outside a small Wisconsin town allowed Augusta to meticulously shelter her boys from the horrors of the world. Consequently, the Gein boys experienced an extremely isolated childhood. Aside from chores around the farm, the only other time Ed and his brother were allowed to leave the property was to attend school. This continued until Ed graduated from 8th grade, after which he stopped attending school and worked the farm full-time. Ed's time away from the farm was no picnic either. In his early life, he had an abnormal growth over his left eye, which left him with a lazy eye, and a lesion on his tongue made it difficult for him to speak normally. As a result, children at Rasha Creek Grade School relentlessly bullied Ed. Any attempts to find comfort at home were met with derision from his mother and physical abuse from his father. His failure to make any real friends, either at home or at school, weighed heavily on young Ed Gein. His mother had instilled in him the belief that everyone was out to corrupt him and doom him to hell, especially girls and women. Because of this, Ed was forbidden from having friends. Any attempts he made to develop a friendship with other children would result in his mother calling them sinners and refusing to let him socialize. To compensate for this void, Ed was said to concoct a number of imaginary friends to help him through the profound loneliness. This escape from reality may have contributed significantly to his antisocial personality. Living on a farm entails numerous chores, and Gein was expected to help with the upkeep of the property, including livestock. When he was around 7 years old, Ed snuck into the slaughtering shed, an area he had been forbidden from entering. The morbidly curious Gein witnessed his parents butchering a pig. His parents were covered in the pig's blood, and he watched as his mother disemboweled the animal. In a later interview with authorities, Gein would admit to disemboweling victims and wrapping their organs in butcher paper, earning him the chilling nickname, the Butcher of Plainfield. Psychologists have suggested that his early exposure to animal slaughter without any proper context may have profoundly influenced his later actions. Ed Gein's mother, Augusta, married George in 1900. Despite being adamantly against anything relating to sex or sexuality, she decided she wanted to be a mother. 2 years later, Augusta gave birth to her first son, Henry, and reportedly felt an immediate revulsion towards the boy, praying that her next child would be a daughter. Then Ed arrived, and she made no secret of how much of a disappointment he was to her. After his birth in 1906, Augusta decided that if she was going to be cursed with boys, she would ensure they did not grow up to be like their deadbeat alcoholic father. This meant, in particular, making sure that Ed would not grow up to be a lustful, godless alcoholic. In a twisted way, she succeeded, as there is no evidence Gein was an alcoholic. The profound and lasting impact of this deeply dysfunctional upbringing would shape the man who would become one of history's most notorious killers.